Well, hello, good morning to you, and welcome to Tottenham Hotspur USA. I am DJ Paul, and today, I guess the news already been dropped. Good afternoon to you. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious if I don't tell you that um, I am coming from the United States. Up there will tell you, yes, I am coming from the United States. And getting a hold of the Conor Gallagher debate, sometimes you see things and it makes you wonder about the fan base. Now, for me, I definitely don't want to be overcritical of other fans. All we're doing is providing an opinion, and if that opinion does not jive with what we are saying, then we have that debate. Hence, the topic right here. If you can see it below me, I mean, it might be buried into my apparel, my top, but it's actually saying the Conor Gallagher debate. And so let's have a debate about Conor Gallagher. Let's have a debate about the prospect of having Conor Gallagher running the show. Is he the complete player? He's completely developed, but I don't think he is a complete player. I think Conor Gallagher would fit like, say, a Palinia and a Zubamendi type, where their two workhorses stabilize your midfield and be able to push up. Conor Gallagher more than Palinia being a box to box in my opinion. And this is what it's all about. It's all about one sharing their opinion. Now, if you look at the eye test, I like the eye test rather than the stats. Because when I look at the comparison, not what's out there now, because obviously uh, he left from Chelsea. And let me say this before, so if you're watching this, you will understand where I'm coming from. Conor Gallagher is a Chelsea player. He went to Palace. I think it was at Palace, and he bossed that midfield for Palace at the time. And he has been out on other loans, but he's primarily a Chelsea player, right? Academy. When you look at what transpired at Chelsea with Conor Gallagher being there, and let's look at the players that came in, and there's a saying, or maybe I'm the only one who is saying it, is that your position can be bought away from you. You can also get moved and get replaced, and you cannot go back to that position by the time you realize it. Sometimes out of convenience, sometimes out of being what you'd call flexible. A player like Conor Gallagher, you can say can play any one of the midfield. If you want him, he can be a number 10 if you want him to be that. And so when you look at his versatility, that's the word I'm looking for, with Chelsea. And by the time Pochettino got there, what did Pochettino have? He has a Caicedo. He has had Lavia, right? Is it Lavia? Lavia. And also Enzo Fernandez. Well, Lavia is injured prone. Obviously, Conor Gallagher is not. But when you look at the versatility of Conor Gallagher, he can play with a sitting Caicedo. He can play with a number 8 like Fernandez. And he can go up as a number 10. Very industrious. So what you find happening, especially in this iteration of Chelsea, they still need someone who was going to be creative. We're not talking about stats here. Let's forget the stats. Let's use the eye test. Let's use what we know. Let's talk as though we watched Chelsea play when Conor Gallagher was there. And I'm painting you the picture. And when I paint that picture, I want you to understand that that's the reason why Conor Gallagher became the odd man out. Because when you have a big signing like Caicedo for £115 million, then you have Fernandez, I think, was 80 or 90 or whatever it was, and then Latvia on top of that, and they all wanted Chelsea. Conor Gallagher became the odd man out. Again, I'm repeating that so those who don't listen too well will understand in driving the point out. It is like advertising. Repeat, repeat, and repeat. And then that will sell a few products. Hopefully, I'm convincing you that you don't need the stats to know exactly what happened. Conor Gallagher's position was bought up from underneath him. He was the most attractive player to make a profit to settle the fair play and PSR. So there are a lot of factors surrounding Conor Gallagher leaving Chelsea. He was a captain, for heaven's sake, and who just up and sell their captain who is not Heiberg, like what, before Heiberg came to Spurs. I'm just messing around with that piece. But when you look at it, if you have a healthy Lavia, healthy Fernandez, healthy Caicedo, and then you have Cole Palmer coming in, where was he going to fit? And then you have Augusto, who can also play in the midfield. You start to see it piling up. If you look at that scenario and fast forward, let's bring it forward here to show you how Conor Gallagher ended up with Spurs. Is that when you look at all that's there, Conor Gallagher became the excess to requirement. So he went to Atletico Madrid, who wanted him. Let's put Atletico Madrid off to the side for a minute. We're going to circle back to that. It is said and reported that Ange Postecoglou wanted him. That's not a part of a story I'm going to dig into. That's just further underlying things that came up after the fact. It was out there, and now, those who wish to speak are coming forward, and now it is adding layers to the story. I don't want to go all the way back to 2023. I want to stick here in the present because Conor Gallagher is a Tottenham Hotspur player, and how did he got here? And so those are the avenues that you need to take and the detours to see how he got here. First of all, he became excess because his position was bought from under him. As versatile as he was, you're not going to get in ahead at the time of Cole Palmer. Big, big, big money coming in. Fernandez, big money coming in. Caicedo, big money coming in. Latvia, big money coming in. Who became the sacrificial lamb? Conor Gallagher, off to Atletico Madrid. Get to Atletico Madrid. Let's bring Atletico Madrid into the story. For me, I personally like Simeone. I root for Barcelona. So I'm not going to root for Atletico Madrid, but I like Simeone. I watched him play for Argentina, and I like him. I root for Argentina as well. That's just my backstory. Get myself involved in the story, if I may. Why shouldn't I? It's my show. But here's the deal. When I look at the Atletico Madrid team, right, and I think they had at the time, did they have Paredes? Or I'm not sure, but they certainly have um, Rodrigo de Paul and Koke, who is older than by far by 6, 7, 8 years or more than a Gallagher. And so him going there would have meant that he has two players that he could succeed, in that midfield. Rodrigo de Paul is off to MLS, and Koke came back. And therefore, I don't see why Simeone was not using him. Now, the way it was being used and where we are is that he needed to get playing time because His ambition tells him that he wants to be in the England squad. He's not going to get in the England squad sitting behind a 33-year-old Koke. And therefore, for him and his ambition is to say, let me get out of here. Learn this about Simeone. Simeone, Luis Enrique, maybe Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Ancelotti, right? And I might bring, somebody from the past, Zidane. Never liked dissenting voices in the team. As soon as you become a dissenting voice, you're gone. Pep, you saw that with Julian Alvarez. You saw that with Sterling. You saw that with Sane. As the minute you become dissenting, you're gone. They don't tolerate dissent in their camp. You know why? Because they played an institutional kind of football, which means that everyone has to be on the same page at the same time. Look at Jesus, very successful at City. Why? Because he plays into an institution that is made for him. How many players you see leaving City and become somebody? Taron Ferris left before he was bedded in. I think he scored a few goals, maybe spent a year and a half there. No one remembered that Ferran Torres actually played for City. But the point is, when you get managers like Simeone, like I mentioned before, and the Pep Guardiola and the Luis Enrique, the minute you become a dissenting voice, you're gone. You have to be that franchise player, but a player who's just fitting into the puzzle, like I mentioned before, the Sane and the Sterling and the Jesus. Check it out. Alvarez, when he said to Pep, I want a little bit more. But I can't be forever sitting behind Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. I can't. And therefore, I would like, my role to be expanded when they're healthy. How am I going to know how good I am if I'm not playing with Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne? How and why are you not getting me on the pitch? That was his conversation to Pep. Foden is a different kind of guy. Foden is more sub. I don't want to say he's for a player that he develops. I'll find the right word. I usually get lost in my thought, and the word that I need just now don't pop in. But the thing with Foden was that Pep will say to Foden that, look, you're good enough to be here. So that's not what you need to work on. What you need to work on is me trusting you. That's his message to Foden. Big difference, right? When he bring players in, he brought them in because he trusted them. He knew he's going to play them. He paid good money to get Alvarez and Mahrez and Sterling and the likes in. So right away, the value of their coming in is not the same as a Phil Foden or a Oscar Bob or a Lewis coming out of the academy. It is a matter of, you're here, I can go out and buy somebody if I need them, but for you, you have to show me that you belong here when I give you 15 minutes a game. Make me want to give you a start. Make me want to give you 30 minutes. Make me want to look down the bench and pull you off the bench. Make you prepare yourself to know that I'm going to call upon you. That's the message to a Phil Foden from Pep. And look how Foden turned out. But the point I'm making is that you cannot have a dissenting voice when you play for those managers. Otherwise, you're gone. Period. There's evidence around to show that. And so when it comes to Gallagher, right, what happened now with Simeone, he's becoming a dissenting voice because now he's looking ahead and he said, look at my body of work. Look what I gave you last year. What's happening this year? I'm in a World Cup year and I would love to be on the bus to the States. How can you facilitate me? Simeone is not going to change what he's doing because of Conor Gallagher's ambition. He is worried more so about Atletico Madrid, and rightfully so. So Conor Gallagher, the professional, is saying that, hey, get me out of here. Atletico Madrid say, yes, I'm willing, but I want to sell you. That's one part of the story that makes the news. That Atletico Madrid did not want Conor Gallagher back. That they're disgruntled with him, but if they were to get him through the door, then he stays out the door. So therefore, they were not going to do a loan to buy. And that's where Aston Villa came in. When you look at Aston Villa, remember, I gave you the breakdown of how the structure of Chelsea was. Look at Chelsea and now look at Aston Villa. I took the long route to get to it. Kamara, Morgan Rogers, Onana, Tielemans, McGinn. That's 5 midfielders in there. And plus, you have, I think there's a kid that comes off the bench. I can't, Dulgrade or Bogado, whatever his name is, also plays in the midfield. Even though they have injuries, Aston Villa has enough of the same type of Conor Gallagher. So if Conor Gallagher was going to go there on loan, and he knows that he cannot go back to Real Madrid, follow the story here. Because not Real Madrid, but Atletico Madrid make it clear that when you go, you're gone. So they're not looking to take you back. Once you go, we're going to sell you. Now he's going to get into a crowded field. Is Aston Villa saying that, look, when I look down the roster, Onana might be going, Tielemans might be going, Kamara might be going. There's no such thing as Aston Villa parting ways with any of their midfielders. So for Conor Gallagher, when he looks at the picture in front of him, why would he want to go to Aston Villa knowing that a healthy Aston Villa midfield does not include him? He will be a bit part player. Enter Spurs, right? So Conor Gallagher's ambition to play, as much as Aston Villa is a better structured, better team, not a bigger club, but better team than Spurs, why would Conor Gallagher personally want to go there? They're not a shoe-in to win anything. So it's not like you're going to a city where you can sit and wait. It's not like you're going to a Arsenal who seem like they're on the verge of winning the Premier League if they continue the way they are. It's not like Liverpool, who should be in the chase to try and catch Arsenal. So he's going to be a part of that to make them better. Liverpool did not come in for him, had no intent. So there was no need. When you look at where his needs are, and I used this example on a previous post, is that Semenyo to City is a need. Semenyo to City, last window, there was no need for him. But City, in this window, found a need for Semenyo. They go out and sign Semenyo. We have overwhelming need for a Semenyo, but we are absolutely not attractive. So therefore, we are out the minute the big boys come in and start to sniff around. So for some of us who are saying, just go pay him $350,000 a week, the clause is still $65 million. But do you believe that Semenyo is a professional is going to say, okay, I can get this extra $110,000 a week, so let me go to Spurs, who is not going anywhere, who is not attractive enough? I think that's what a lot of fans want to make Semenyo to be. Let's go overpay, or any player for that matter. Let's go overpay and bring him. It doesn't work like that. We are disrespecting the players. That Semenyo would rebuff City to come and get an extra little bit per week at Spurs. If Semenyo wants to come to Spurs, We can go back to what attracts him. It doesn't matter whether Spurs are mid-table team or not. If his desire is not to play for City or any of the big club, because within himself he feels like he will grow, he will get better, he will strive, because that is where his mind and his mentality is going to take him. Have nothing to do with his ambition. There's a thing that is going on that if you don't win, Harry Kane would have loved to win at Spurs. We just weren't good enough to deliver for him. Wholesome. Harry Kane would not have left if we were winning the odd trophy. So what he did, which is absolutely right, is to go to where he knows he doesn't have to do the hard yards anymore, because he put that in when he was with Spurs. Go to Bayern, win some trophy. It's easy in the sense of the structure of the league. They're a top club. They are going to give him the quality around him. The DS, when they come in, the Michael Elise is there already. And so he's going to win. So at the end of the day, you're going to say, hey, this is his legacy at Spurs. This is what he moved on to. And so when you look at Semenyo and look at his talent, he says, yes, I can lend my talent to City. If he goes to City and it does not work out, he's still going to be as attractive as when he went to City. Spurs will take him in a heartbeat. So we have to understand the difference. And when the big boys come calling, like I said before, right? I hear all the time, before I get into the weeds on this one, I hear all the time, just go out there and be like Brentford. Just go out there and be like Brighton. I did some research, especially on Brighton, because I want to know why we should be like Brighton. But Spurs are not going to go out there and sign a player for $4 million. Or Aston Villa, in the case of McGinn, $2 million. Or Embuemo for $5 million, and Wizza for whatever he came in for, and turn around, build those players up, which they all take time to. The projection at Brighton is faster, because those players spend something like a year and a half to two before they build up based on the good system that they have. But as a club on a whole, Brighton is not moving up the chain, because Brighton sell their best player every other year. They develop them, they sell them. And therefore, if you look at the cluster of players that they actually sold, and the money that they earn and what they turn around and buy to develop again and then sold, you can't tell me that Brighton is an ambitious club. Well run, profit making, but you're giving back 20% of your sale on just about every player that you sold. Spurs is not going to do that model. And saying that, are we as fans are willing to say, take the model? And we saw that. We can look into the model and we can see Yang, and we see Bergvall, and we see Sarr, and we saw Gray, and Vuskovic, and Ashley Phillips. That's the model. That's the model right there. We just don't have the system to peg those players into and develop them, because our expectations is that we're supposed to be in the top four. Brentford, Brighton does not have that expectation. So it's a whole different thing with where they are today and where we think we should be. So the pressure is totally different. But let me get back to Conor Gallagher. I'm just saying that be careful without the facts that you're telling me to go out there and buy it in a Koda, Takai Koda, and the Yangs, and then we have no room to develop them. Are you going to have the patience? Are you going to have the patience to go out there and sign a Areola as a manager, who is going to need 2.5 years to get to where he needs to? Who is going to give you almost an half a season before he hits his stride, because they're all slow starters? Are you going to do the same thing with a Glasner, who is methodical in his approach? Are you going to do that? Are you going to... Now, the flavor of the day is Javi Hernandez. And so we want to say, hey, we should have gotten Keith Andrews. He got a very good team to start with. And some teams just need a little tweak. Look at Liverpool. Slot walked in, won the Premier League, went out, spent $500 million or thereabout, and he's struggling based on where he think he's supposed to be, or football knows where he's supposed to be. That's a Liverpool team that based on the position, the expectation, the players and the quality that they went out and buy is struggling. But yet he had walked in, right? Is anyone saying that he won with a Klopp team? Tuchel took over in the middle of the season, won the Champions League. He was gone the next year. So come on now. Let's be reasonable in what we're saying. But let me get back to Conor Gallagher. So now what we're saying, and we get lazy. We're talking that Gallagher to Aston Villa is because Aston Villa, if Aston Villa wanted him, he would have gotten him. No, if Gallagher wanted Aston Villa, he would have been at Aston Villa. Let me say this to the Spurs fans. Let me say this, and I'm going to say it again so you hear me in the back. The scenario, the situation with Gallagher and Aston Villa and Atletico Madrid, Spurs in the middle of that storm, right? We were in a better position based on what Gallagher wanted, based on what Atletico Madrid was willing to do or not do, and based on the situation that existed at Aston Villa. Now, if Aston Villa was going to buy him and give him a long-term contract, I don't think Spurs would have that clear path to him. What I've discussed before, or what I said before, the playing time would have mattered to him because his ambition is not 4 or 5 years from now, maybe, but his immediate concern is how much am I going to play? When I look and I see Kamara and I see Onana and McGinn and Rodgers and Tittlesman now in a crowded midfield, which midfield happens to be the core and the best part of Villa's team. Rodgers have to be in the team. So what's happening is that he's out there on the wing because he's a versatile player. What's going to happen when they have injuries is that they're going to bring Rodgers inside if they can find a replacement. And even now, you're seeing Tillesman, Onana, and McGinn man the middle. So that's the trio of midfielders that you have, even with Morgan Rodgers still not in there. Where are you going to fit Conor Gallagher? You don't think Conor Gallagher and his agent are smart enough to see that there is not enough minutes to go around, that he will never be a nail-on starter at Aston Villa, and therefore Spurs, who need him, becomes, here's the word, attractive. We might not be attractive overall as a club in the moment, but to Conor Gallagher, his ambition, what he wants, and what Atletico Madrid need to have happen is perfect. So Spurs arrived on time for what is required. And therefore, if you're looking at it from a sane point, just from club to club and transaction, where would you want to be if you're Conor Gallagher and Saturday you can walk right into Spurs starting 11 versus you'll be trying to figure out what's going to happen at Villa? It would be a no-brainer. And therefore, being at the right place at the right time, having the right people making decisions based on a player that is a complete player. Complete in terms of his development. I'm not saying that he's a complete footballer. There are faults, right? But when you talk about his fault can be based on the system that he's in. And you don't look at Conor Gallagher. If he was that kind of player, I tell you now that he would have been snapped up by somebody else who needed the help. But nobody, no team apart from Spurs and Aston Villa right now are seeing the need for Conor Gallagher. Spurs overwhelmingly won that battle. This is not a hijack. This is a parallel conversation that was going on. Do you go for a loan? Because when you look at it overwhelmingly, let's bring back Atletico Madrid into the picture. Atletico Madrid wants him gone because, like I said, he became a dissenting voice. So now, what do? You want him to go. The better bargain, Spurs stepping up for the first time in a long time and said, that's the man I want that can come in and rectify the injuries, the lack of the quality. Bergvall and Gray and Sarr, you know, a injured Bentancur, a one away Bissouma. He's a perfect for that in the now. So I don't call it a hijack. I just think for what it is and what it's worth, Conor Gallagher is the right man at the right time, and Spurs went in and snapped him up. I don't see the debate. When I said that he was a complete player, maybe I shouldn't have used the word complete player, but he's a developed player. He's a former captain. His stats, which I'm not going to show, are great. But the eye test tells me that he is the right man at the right time for Spurs, and we should just sit back and relax and actually enjoy. Spurs, for the first time in a long time, brought an actual footballer into the club. That there should be no debate as to what his contributions are going to be. And with that, I will end it right here. Peace. Be good, walk good until next time. I'm DJ Paul for Tottenham Hotspur. And come on, you Spurs.